All right, guys, our next guest takes on Marvin Vettori on September 3rd, 4th here in Australia and New Zealand as he packs his bags and fights in Paris, France in what will be a milestone event as it'll be the UFC's first trip there. The former UFC middleweight champion himself and the pride of Australia, Robert Whittaker, bonjour, and welcome back to the show. Good morning.
Good morning, mate. Good morning.
So I suppose we're getting ready for a bit of French ahead of the big trip, man. I got to ask, though, like, what's the best and worst thing about this fight in France? Like, lay it on us. I know it's not the closest place to Australia.
Yeah, like, honestly, that would have to be the worst thing. It's just the flight there. It's a bit of a leg.
Yeah.
But honestly, though, I've managed to work out people to look after my kids, so I'm going to be able to take the wife. I've never been to France. I look forward to getting there and putting on a show, and then I'm going to go suss out London afterwards. And I don't know, it's just good times. It's everything I wanted to do 4 years ago.
Oh, nice, man. I feel like if you're gonna leave the kids and then take the wife somewhere, France is kind of the spot. You know, the city of romance and whatnot. Like this is a nice kind of getaway. But I remember like seeing you put your hand up for this one and actually volunteering for the card. Why was that? Why fly all the way to France? If someone had said to me, "Oh, if Rob could pick a card, it's going to be France," I would have been like, "What? No way!" Well, why was that?
Because it's France, man. I've never been to France. I've never been in Europe, so I thought it'd be something different. You know, one of the biggest things that was so appealing with being an international fighter was fighting internationally, being able to explore new cultures and put on shows and entertain the masses in these big arenas overseas. And it just seems like fun.
Yeah. It's good. The card, by the way, is a real banger. It's going to be a really great night, a big historic night. When you look at the card, though, it's Tai Tuivasa on it. Do you laugh to yourself a little bit because also like this would be a perfect like return card for Australia as well? Like this would be a huge fight card down here with you and Tai on the same card.
Yeah, it would be massive. But I think the UFC is going to hold out until next year. I'm looking forward to when the UFC comes back to Australia. You can only imagine the size of that card. It's going to be absolutely nuts. We'll probably fill out every slot on there with an Australian fighter, just due to the fact that Australian MMA and UFC fighters are just coming through the roof now and doing very well, with that. But in saying that, it's still good to be a part of history, in France and to be able to put on a show there.
I know the Aussies are killing it, man. You guys, main event and co-main event, Volko just absolutely being discussed as like the pound for pound greatest. And of course, a lot of other fighters, but the Aussies are doing great things. And it's cool for you because obviously you were part of the historic UFC 193 first stadium show here in Melbourne, Australia, and now you're doing it in France as well. The milestone event. So it's awesome. But when we spoke last in April, you were bummed out after being forced to withdraw from the Marvin fight due to, some of the nagging injuries that you said weren't really healing and the rehab was kind of coming along slow. How'd you get past that, man? How are you feeling now?
Yeah, I feel great now. It was just a time thing. It wasn't anything special or crazy. It was just I just needed more time to heal, and I was fortunately granted that time to heal, and now I'm back swinging as hard as ever in the gym, and I'm in top tip shape.
Yeah, I imagine looking back on it now, you're pretty relieved at how the whole situation worked out. Like it was a pretty quick turnaround, and obviously things didn't quite work out anyway. You were mentioning how the body wasn't feeling quite up to it because of that short turnaround. But how relieved are you to have this fight actually rebooked against Marvin? But not only that, obviously Singapore a great destination, but you get to do it in Paris with this milestone event.
Yeah, it worked out well in that regard, in the fact that I still get to fight Marvin 3 rounds, and I get to go to Europe instead, which is massive. Singapore was beautiful and everything, but I've been itching to go to Europe for a long time. But the amount of time between fights is a little annoying, but you can't pick and choose it sometimes. You just gotta. I have to do what's best for me, and block out the outside noise sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I remember you were saying like there was a bit of backlash and some of the pressure that sort of like came with it, but you have to do what's right for yourself. Did you kind of get a laugh at how this came together? Where like Marvin obviously really wanted to stay active and stay busy, but he couldn't find anyone. It just didn't work out for whatever reason, and so he kind of ended up tweeting you. It was kind of like, "Are we doing this?" Like, all right, I don't have anyone left. Are we actually going to do it here in Paris? Did you get a laugh out of that?
Not so much to the laugh. It's just I liked the forwardness. I hate all these bloody games and this circus that some of the fighters are participating in, that are creating with, like, oh, I'll fight this guy, but doesn't actually want to fight this guy, or why doesn't he want to fight me, but isn't actually looking for any fights and won't fight everyone. The forwardness of it was a breath of fresh air. He goes, "Are we going to do this?" I was like, "Yes." And then it was set up and we're good, So it's good. That's how it should be. We are professionals at our sport. This is what we do. We set up a date, we sign the line, and we get it done.
And a lot of respect there, because not many people want to fight Robert Whittaker, and here he is, Marvin Vettori, looking to challenge himself and make this fight happen, which is good to see. I'm curious, man. Like, is this the second training camp? Do you see this as the second training camp for Marvin because you're sort of preparing for him previously, or did you get into like training camp because I know you were sort of still figuring out how your body was feeling? So would this technically be kind of like the first one?
Yeah, I consider it one with a rocky start because it's I really couldn't get much done when I was injured. I just couldn't get much done. I couldn't get the work in that I needed to do for him, and it's so really, and it's annoying in a sense just because of how long it's dragged on, and it feels like. The same thing happened with the Adesanya fight. It's just like the camp went forever because we couldn't travel and everything. But it's good though, because I've gotten the work in. I've healed to full health, and he's going to get the best version of me.
That's good. Well, I guess regardless, you would be fairly familiar with him by now. I don't know how much tape you watched or anything, but how would you sort of describe his style and the challenge that he brings to you?
He's just tenacious. He's relentless. He's tough as nails. And he's very well rounded as well. You got to give it to him. Respect where it's due, and he's good at his job. He's good at his sport. He'll beat a lot of people just on grit alone. And I'm looking forward to a hard fight, a very hard fight. But I'm going to give it to him. 15 minutes. I'm going to give it to him, and see how he handles it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's interesting because, Dan Hooker, a lot of people talk about this, but what is the difference between getting ready for a 3-round fight compared to getting ready for a 5-round fight? And I'm also guessing, obviously you're going out there and you're looking to, go out there, dominate, finish, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm guessing it's a completely different sort of game plan as well, because you're also keeping in mind the fact that, all right, I got to get these 2 rounds as well. Make sure that because it's a much shorter fight, it will be a bit of a different kind of approach, I suppose.
Yeah, the tempo is just different. You can give more to the rounds, and that isn't a conscious thought when you're in the fight. It's more of a natural thing that happens, like a habit that just comes out in the fight due to the way you've trained the weeks leading up to it. Instead of trying to get 5-round performances and perform 5 rounds, the first round can't be any less than the 5th. You're trying to do that for 3, which it's a lesser time. You can just give much more.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I see also like in the Insta, you're doing a lot of the Camden Valley wrestling, which obviously you're representing on your hoodie right now. And I know that Marvin obviously likes to incorporate quite a bit of wrestling in his game. So I imagine you want to test the Commonwealth Games wrestling against him. But you mentioned it before, like the sheer toughness of Marvin. Like he's a real, for lack of a better term, goer. Like he just goes in there. He's so tough. And you just don't really see people, really hurt him or rock him or drop him. Part of you, are you sort of looking at that thinking, yeah, this could be a bit of a grueling one. This could be a bit of a grueling war, even though it's only 3 rounds. Like he's just not really the kind of guy to go away or go down.
Yeah, I know he's tough. He's tough as nails. But I'm looking forward to trying to crack that nut. You know, I'm looking forward to getting in there and just seeing how much I can give him and how much he can take. And yeah, you know, it's a challenge in itself. It's part of the fun.
Another part of the fun is the intensity that he brings during fight week. You kind of see him go 0 to 100 during the weigh-ins and face-offs, and you know, sort of bring some of that action energy into it. What are you anticipating from this fight week? And I'm just wondering, like, when you see that, do you just see that sort of as one of his mental preps as he kind of goes into things, like one of the things he tries to tick off to get himself mentally prepared to get in there with his opponents?
There's definitely some sort of personality trait that he tries to G himself up to get, you know, yeah, and it makes perfect sense with his fight style, which is all that. It's all aggression and just hyping himself up until he can't feel anything anymore. You know, I'm sure it's. I don't know what to expect from him. It's hard. I don't see people. What are you going to do against someone that doesn't want to be a part of it? Like,
that's true.
You know, I don't want to be a part of those shenanigans, but I'm good at them though. We'll wait and see.
I think there's a lot of mutual respect there, regardless. Anyway, I don't think you've made Marvin's list by any chance. You were saying forwardness. Marvin's pretty blunt. I don't know Marvin, but he seems like the kind of guy who's like, if he likes you, he likes you. If he doesn't have a problem with you, he just kind of leaves you alone. I have to ask though, man, what's going on with the eye? I know you've got a bit of a cut there. I've been noticing it in some of your pictures recently. It looks like I don't know. It's sort of taking a little bit of time to heal. What's going on with the eye?
This?
Yeah.
No, that's fully healed. It's just in a spot. No, I did it I don't know, months ago.
Oh wow.
And cuts they don't just disappear.
So no. I want to just jump ahead of anything. No concerns about the fight or reopening or anything like that, right?
The cut?
Yeah.
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, good. Just checking to make sure it's not going to have any effect on the fight. But speaking of cuts, I mean, what better time to talk about our good friends at Manscaped and the Lawnmower 4.0 so you don't get any cuts on your bean bags with its skin-safe technology, the pound-for-pound greatest, best grooming tool in the world. With the ceramic blade, you don't have to worry about any nasty cuts. It's got the LED light so you can see what you're doing. It's waterproof so you can have it in the shower. As I do, I used to have a professional like head shaver from another well-known brand. I used to have another well-branded beard trimmer, and then I would just use a rusty razor for my junk. The Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 replaces everything. I literally just have it sitting in my shower. It's easier just to do my head with it rather than something with a cable. I don't have to charge it nearly as much as the beard trimmer. And also with the, I don't have it here, but the guards you can add for different lengths and textures, which I like to do on my beard. And then you just run it over your junk, and it's nice and easy and keeps everything smooth. Then you wash it in the same moment in the shower. You chuck it on the wireless charging dock, and it just frees up a lot of time in your life, and you get a phenomenal result. Isn't that right, Dennis?
Yeah, that's right, man. You guys can get 20% off and free shipping today with a code word submission. You can support the show and support yourself. Make it a nice, smooth process, like Casper mentioned, with Manscaped, and change your life for the better. And Cass, I was going to say this weekend, a big banger alert, because we've got Yair Rodriguez taking on Brian Ortega. Right now, at the time of recording, Rodriguez is a plus 140. Ortega is a minus 170. Which way are you guys leaning? Let us know in the comment sections below. And of course, you guys can double your first deposit at MyBookie with a code word submission. Now, these guys have all the bets, all the best odds, no matter what sport you're looking at. There's only one place to go for all your betting needs. That is with our friends at MyBookie, and that code word submission. Double your first deposit on sign up now.
Yeah, that's right. Also, it's a travel season at the moment. It is July at the moment. A lot of people in Australia are going off to Bali because it's kind of cold and miserable here in Melbourne. So they're like, all right, get some sun in Bali, or maybe you're in the States where I believe it's summer right now. So maybe you're popping off to, like, I don't know, Tula, Mexico, or somewhere cool for a bit of a quick getaway. When you travel, though, you're going to be using a lot of Wi-Fis, some reliable, some dodgy. And if you're anything like me and you have all your passwords and everything saved in your phone, in your Google Chrome or your Firefox or whatever, that's how you can get everything stolen. People stealing your data accessing your credit card information, stealing your identity. That's where a VPN like NordVPN comes into play. You pop it on, and then it blocks any kind of data breaches, anyone stealing your information. Your internet service provider cannot see anything that you're doing, anything that you're browsing. I don't know, maybe you're downloading, whatever, movies or any kind of stuff. Your internet service provider will be none the wiser. Incognito mode, as we know, doesn't really do anything. Your internet service provider still knows exactly what kind of websites you're on. And also, it helps with geo-blocking. Maybe you go to Bali and you're from Australia or the States and you've been binge watching a show on Netflix. Well, maybe Netflix Indonesia doesn't offer that same programming. So what are you going to do? Well, you turn on NordVPN, you change your geolocation to Australia or wherever you want in the world, and now you have access to that geolocation's titles. Maybe you want to check out some good stuff on BT Sport for their boxing or MMA coverage. You can't because maybe they have it geo-blocked. That's all right. NordVPN, now your computer thinks you're in the UK and you can access all that great content. And they've got the threat protection as well, which keeps you nice and protected. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. You can take all your existing subscriptions with you all around the world, which becomes super frustrating when you realize, Foxtel, Stan, all of these things, they don't work when I leave Australia and go to a different country. So, guys, you could sign up now and get a great exclusive deal with NordVPN where you can save up to 69% and you get 1 month free by going to nordvpn.com/submission or click the link in the description below. Get a huge discount and it's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. They have nothing to hide. Also, the best apps in the business when it comes to VPNs. Make sure to sign up and try them today. But Rob, I'm just curious, man, as well. You and Marvin, you guys are in a similar position. Both of you guys fought Israel twice. You're both at the top of the division, and you both want to go for this belt again. Is there a part of you that feels like you're fighting for the number one spot in the division? And what is this fight about for you in general? Is it about getting back to that title, or is it about sort of proving, hey, I am the best in the division, regardless of whether or not I have this belt?
It's both. It's about, beating him, and just like the satisfaction that'll bring for me, and then enjoying it and staying active and being a fighter. That's a big part of it. And the second part is that it's one more leg closer to getting that third fight with Adesanya or whoever is up there at the time. But that's the goal, is to always be pushing towards that goal and to just cement what I'm doing.
Mentally, how would you sort of describe, this fight, the fight immediately after a title fight? Like, what is it like sort of going from a fight where seemingly the stakes are at their highest, such a massive stage, the extra attention, media, to a fight where, maybe some of those stakes aren't quite as high profile? Not to say that they aren't there, but I always wonder what it's like sort of transitioning. People say, the title fight's the biggest fight of your life, et cetera, et cetera. What is sort of the fight immediately afterwards like for you?
I don't know. It's just like another fight, really, to be honest. It's I fought in tons of big fights. I fought in headlines and undercards and everything. And honestly, this is just it's just another big fight. It's I don't know. Fighting after a loss is in some respects freeing because you can try new things. You can try new things, and I look forward to doing that.
I just want to go back a couple of weeks to UFC 276, man, because obviously Israel defended his belt against Jared Cannonier. And I got to ask you, what did you make of the performance and what did you think of that fight?
I guess it wasn't what he sold it to be. They set up, there was going to be this and that and this and that, and then none of that came through. And that's always the problem and the risk of talking it up like that. But I think Adesanya is the best defensive striker in the game. His body was built for it, and he knows how to utilize that skill set to the absolute highest ability. And that's the sort of fight it was. Adesanya just fought defensively, safe, did what he needed to do to win. And mate, what more can you ask? Like, he got the W that way. I think I think people find it very people are going to find it very hard to dethrone him just because of the way he fights and the style, you know.
Like, because obviously after the fight, it was another win. You know, he's extending the streak. But obviously there was criticism from the fans, and I wonder, like, as a fighter, like, what do you see? Like, do you think that those criticisms of like, oh, that was a boring fight, do you think it's fair and it really is just that? Or as a fighter, someone who's actually in there, do you kind of look at it and go, well, there's certain things that maybe are underappreciated or maybe, you know, not exactly, you know, seen?
There is definitely an element of underappreciation there, and nobody bar the fighters, nobody bar him can truly understand what was going on in there and what was happening. Okay. And, you know, it's the thing is though, the backlash is from him talking it up, you know, and, what do you want? You can't, the way they were both speaking on it and then they both just didn't deliver that, which is fine. You know, it's much easier to handle criticism with a W than an L. You know, and at the end of the day, winning is what matters. But you know, you did this to yourself. You know, you did it to yourself.
I am wondering, like, with your style, like, people find your style pretty people pleasing, right? People enjoy watching you fight, and I wonder, like, how much of that is, you know, you being aware of that and you thinking, all right, I need to, you know, not make this a boring fight, and how much of it is you just completely blocking everything out and just going, I need to do exactly, you know, what needs to be done in order to get the W. Like, have you ever felt in a fight where, you know, whatever, you're listening to the crowd and you're affected by that, or are you just completely blocking that out at all times?
I've been affected by the crowd before, just because of the noise, but I've never been affected. I've never thought about putting on a show ever. It's I'm just very aggressive, you know, and people like that. But in saying that, if I could take someone down and hold them down until they got picked up to go home, then I'd do that. You know, like it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all.
I got to also ask, man, what did you think of Alex Pereira's win over Sean Strickland? Were you a little bit surprised that Strickland actually decided to stand with Pereira and not sort of implement his grappling to see if he could maybe explore a gap in Alex's game?
No, I wasn't surprised per se, because you could see what was going to happen at the beginning of the fight. Just the way they were standing and the distancing and stuff. Yeah, there was no surprise there. It's the surprise comes from how fast Pereira's just skyrocketed through the ranks to get that title shot. But really, I think it's a good fight for, like, that's good fight to match up. You know, two tall dudes striking, being there before. I think it'll be fun. I think Strickland definitely caught the wrong end of the stick there. He got caught. I don't know what the plan was for him to moving into it, so I can't talk on it whether he delivered it or not. But you know, it happens. It happens in the game.
Well, we're talking to Luke Rockhold almost a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned how he kind of saw Pereira as a tough guy, a dangerous opponent, obviously, but also someone who, you know, 20 guys in the division could probably beat, and the UFC sort of moving him up against Israel before that happens. Do you kind of see that as well, like the UFC moving Alex along towards this title shot before he, you know, potentially fights somebody that could capitalize on his inexperience in certain aspects of the game?
Definitely. There's a lot of different guys that'll give him a really hard fight, you know. But you know, it is what it is. There's no point umming and ahhing on hypotheticals, really. It's that fight's happening. He was placed well. His matches were placed well. His opponents were picked out. And he's up there. They've made that fight, you know, the revenge fight sort of thing happen, and it'll be a big show.
All right, just last thing on like Alex and Israel. Hey, I'm curious how you think that fight potentially plays out, seeing as it is the third one. And I'm also curious if you're sort of if you have a preference as far as who wins. Not for any kind of personal feelings, but you got to think, like, if Alex wins, it kind of makes your shot to the title a lot quicker, right?
Yeah, mate, that's an interesting fight because, like, oh man, I guess a big thing is going to be how Alex takes shots, how he handles the shots from Adesanya with the smaller gloves, because it's not like Adesanya had a hard time, like impossibly hard time hitting Alex in their kickboxing fights. So we'll see how he takes the shots, and then, but like I said, Adesanya's got some of the best defensive striking in the game. I'm looking forward to the fight, actually. It's punch and kick each other to high heaven, so that'll be fun.
You'll watch it. I know sometimes you don't watch fights live. Sometimes you're like, family or game time. You'll watch this one live?
Yeah, I will. I watched the last fight there live as well. Mm-hmm. I watched some fights.
Yeah. Because, an amazing performance by Volko against Max Holloway, so you can't miss that one too. I'm curious, though, when we talk about this fight, whether or not you think it's going to end up being a kickboxing match, or you think Israel's going to implement some of the other aspects of the game into this one and sort of switch it up a bit even.
Nah, I think it's going to be a kickboxing fight. I'd be very, very surprised otherwise.
And just the last part of that question, do you have a preference as far as who wins? Is there a part of you that's like,
like, probably, I don't know, not really. But maybe Alex, just because it makes getting that title fight a little easier. Getting a third fight against Izzy is much harder than getting a first fight with Alex. So I would have to lean towards that, smart-wise. But in my heart of hearts, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that extends into a fight to Brazil and another trip for Rob. Who knows? But, hey, man, before we let you go, I want to share a great quote the other day. One of your quotes from Twitter, you wrote, "I'm still on the journey, still on the chase, still on the hunt. Every loss has made me better. It's not how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get back up." And there's some powerful words that you shared. I think it meant a lot for fans out there. It means different things to different people. I'm just wondering, what does that quote mean to you personally?
I haven't given up. I am not satisfied not being the champ. I am not satisfied with leaving the 2 losses to Israel. I'm not satisfied being number 1. I want to be the champ. I want to beat Israel. I want to be better. I want more. And that quote is just that. It's just, I'm not satisfied yet. And I'm not going to fail to come up with that second time against Israel and just be like, all right, well, I'm just not good enough. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. I'm better, and I can get better, and I'm still hungry, and I'm still going to get that fight, and I'm still going to terrorize the division until I put my boots up, and mate, I'm still here.
I think you topped the previous quote. This is what we like to hear, man. This is I like it. Very powerful message, very inspirational. Something that you can apply to every part of life, not just fighting. Okay, so the last thing before we let you go, how do you see yourself getting it done in against Marvin Vettori in Paris, France, man?
Well, I've been working me 1-2 a lot, so I reckon I give him the 1-2 and he goes home.
Oh, nice! Quick 30-second knockout.
I hope so. I hope so.
Easy one in the office. Nice.
Well, guys, you can check him out taking on Marvin Vettori in a history-making fight event in Paris, France on September 3rd, 4th in Australia and New Zealand. Of course, check out his appearance at Culture Kings in Melbourne on August 6th if you're local. He's doing an in-store appearance. So if you want to meet Rob, here is your chance. And, of course, follow him on socials at Robert Whittaker MMA. Of course, lots of great merch and opportunities to check out his lead up into this historic fight. Rob, man, we appreciate you getting up early to speak to us. As always, a huge honor, a huge privilege, and we can't wait to see this history-making event. Enjoy your trip down to Paris, man.
Thank you very much, guys. It's always good to be on.
Thanks so much, Rob. Appreciate it. Enjoy the croissants.
Thanks, Rob. All the best, mate. All the best.
Bye.
Take it easy, guys. Bye.